Thank you, Jeff, and good morning, Brisbane. Can I start just by saying what a pleasure it is to be here today presenting at Esri. They have really looked after us and made us feel welcome, and they've put on a great event. My name is Matt Piper, and joining me on stage today is my work colleague, Torsten Holm-Strader. Today's presentation is going to be a showcase how Energy Queensland used the Esri spatial apps and maps to help us assist in overcoming the recent Tropical Cyclone Debbie. We'll start today with a map and a representation of the Energy Queensland network. Now you can see it's quite a large network. We extend all the way as far north to the isolated communities, as far west as Mount Isa, and as far south now to as far as the Gold Coast. So some of the key attributes that are worth taking away from this is that we have over 220,000 kilometres of network. We have 1.7 million square kilometres of coverage area. We have 2.1 million customers. And one of the key things to note is that about 70% of our network is actually considered rural, which makes us one of the largest radial SWIR networks in the world. This little map here is a fun little map we put together. It actually indicates the last 10 years' worth of cyclones overlaid with our Energy Queensland network. Now, there's a couple of things you can take away from this, is that not one of those squiggly lines is the same. So, safe to say, cyclones are very unpredictable. The other thing to take away is there's a lot of them. So that's just the last 10 years. The map actually came with the last 100 years, but you actually lost sight of the entire sea. There's that many of them. So about 4.7 cyclones impact the Queensland coast every year. So Energy Queensland is actually getting quite effective and efficient at dealing with these sort of major events. The other thing to note, though, is our customers are also getting very experienced with dealing with these events. So their expectations and service levels continuously evolve, and their expectations on us are getting higher and higher. So we're always looking for opportunities to learn and do things better with every season that passes. Before we get into the showcase of our maps and apps, I can just start by helping you understand what our starting platform is. So Energy Queensland, a fairly new Esri customer. We only went live with Esri in October 2016. So we implemented about 44 base layers. So what I'm talking here is this is our HV, our subtransmission, our LV network, all of our poles, our pillars. So what you saw on the map before, as you zoom in, new layers will appear, and it's a fairly detailed representation of our network. We also went live with ArcGIS Online, so we have public-facing data sets that are also pushed out to the public for consumption as needed. One of the key takeaways, though, is that Energy Queensland's GIS and design tool is actually Small World. Okay? So understanding where our starting platform is also understanding what some of our constraints and our opportunity present. So our GIS is Small World. Our mobility platform is actually Field Smart, which works offline, integrated back through Small World. So if you take that into consideration, we do not have an enterprise year database. We do not have mobile devices, bring your own device, implemented as yet. We do not have the cloud option presented at the moment. So we have a number of constraints, if you understand the platform, but there's always opportunity to improve and still get the results. So we're fortunate, we have guys like Thorsten, so I can throw Thorsten any number of data sets and he can make it appear on a map. What we did have, though, is a paper-based damage assessment solution that was implemented the previous years. So we now need to convert that damage assessment into something spatial. Okay, so our innovative thinking here, we took our GE Small World, implemented into our ToughPad. So our ToughPads are actually Windows 7. Okay, and what we did is we integrated Survey 123, which is one of the Esri mobile tools and applications, and that empowered us then to take our field crews out to the field and actually capture the data spatially and bring back some of the benefits that you'll see in the showcase. Okay, the other thing to understand is actually what Tropical Cyclone Debbie delivered. So up on the board is a timeline of Tropical Cyclone Debbie. So every cyclone presents its own unique problems. Debbie was no different. So Tropical Cyclone Debbie started as a low, intensified fairly quickly. So on the 25th of March, the Bureau of Meteorology released, she was a Category 1. That effectively made us stand up. It also triggered the Bureau of Meteorology web feed that said, here is the tracking maps. Went to a Category 2, 12 hours later, she was now a Category 4. So our stand-up and preparation time on this was fairly minimal. Okay? The next thing that happened is Tropical Cyclone crossed the coast, and then she slowed down and dumped a lot of rain. So we're seeing a lot of that in America at the moment. Very similar scenario. So there was the first impact, followed by a second impact. So one was the storm surge, one was the impact of the network. The next one was the heavy flooding, and then the impacts due to all that, so the inundation and stuff like that. So you would have seen on the news all the impacts to Rockhampton, the river levees, etc. So managing two cyclones simultaneously provides, a number of complicated problems. Before we continue any further, we just want to point out that all the maps and apps that you're going to see now were actually spun up and developed after the cyclone triggered. So these are all during the event in the 12 days. Okay, so I just wanted to point out we can deliver using spatial technologies when required, and these are some of the capabilities that you might be able to apply to your own utilities. The first map that we produced is the actual potential impact map. So this is something that, it makes sense. It's taking the wind feeds from the category cyclone. There's two categories there, the high wind and the potential wind. And you can see there the hyper blue colour, and that indicates this is the part of the Energy Queensland network that was going to be impacted. Okay, we then took that data, extracted it out, produced a number of Excel spreadsheets. That gave us all the constructions of the type of the network that were going to be impacted, so we knew what type of poles, we knew what type of cross arms, we knew what type of conductor, etc. We also then were able to produce tabular reports, which are hanging off to the side here, for some dashboard reporting, which gave us, where are the solar, where are ground-mounted assets, where, those sort of details. So understanding the impact, understanding what type of network, that also gives you a little bit more insight as well to understand how much of that network is underground, where can we put our mobile generation, and start solving some of those planning concerns. The next map, very simple one, but it's an important one, understanding how to manage the coordination of your network. So when an area as large as Tropical Cyclone Debbie comes through, okay, we impacted as far north as Townsville, all the way through down to the northern New South Wales coast. So we have to actually categorise and prepare our mobile coordination into different zones. Okay, so each one of those coloured polygons up top is a representation of a number of the Energy Queensland depots. Okay, so Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3, and each one of those is managed and handled independently in a coordinated approach. Okay, so it's a large area. It's not one person in charge, it was a number of people coordinating, but it's important that we understand that we had enough coverage when that cyclone was tracking through that all those depots that were impacted were managed. Okay, now as I said, Tropical Cyclone Debbie come through. First impact is the storm surge. It's the high tides coming through, it's the inundation caused by the height above average tide. The second part of it was also then the flooding. Okay, now Energy Queensland are not flood modelers, we're not hydrologists, this is not something we do. But we do have a big concern about what part of our network will go under during these events. So we took external data feeds from anywhere we could grab it. So local government, local communities, there was previous vendors and suppliers that we've worked with that had some data feeds as well. So the stuff you're looking at here is taking some live buoys out in the ocean feeds. It was then overlaid onto our network. We then took some static data sets that we had about understanding where our substations, etc., would go underwater. And we were able to represent this back. So Thorsten's looking at a red flag there, that when we ran through the analytics, that flag was red, which gave us a concern. We'd go in and investigate that and manage those sort of data sets. So understanding what part of your network will go under is just as important during these events. Okay, here's the actual impact of just before the cyclone hit. So the tracking map that was coming through, you can see it's still sitting just off the coast, but this is actually the outage zones that were impacted at that point in time. So all the red polygons you're looking at there, the different shades of red indicate the number of customers that are out at that point in time. So it gives you an idea about how to prioritise and work on your restoration plans, but it does give you a pretty good indication about the damage that was impacted onto the network. Now, we do overlay some additional data sets there as well. We also brought in our critical life support customers, our infrastructure, etc. Where are the Telstra towers, etc., to get the communications back up and running. So all that sort of data is packaged up so we can understand where the impact has been and how do we help prioritise and bring in those restoration plans. Okay, so once the cyclone's crossed, you usually get about a 2-day lull. You can't really mobilise too many crews, you can't get access, the roads are flooded, the roads are restricted, and the weather's just that bad. But there is an opportunity here where you can start working on your prioritisation and your scoping. So this was an application we developed to help us do the damage scoping. So what we had here was different polygons that were set up. We could go through each one of those polygons and categorise it. So there were some areas where we were going to mobilise the field crews, so effectively guys out in the street walking the lines. There was other areas of the network where we partnered with Fugro Roams. And of course they're rural and they're remote. Accessibility during those events is hard. They're actually going to fly the network with their high resolution imagery and bring that data back to us and perform the analytics. So we're working in conjunction with partners here to get as much data back in as quickly as possible So the purple zones there were the roams areas, the green ones were the pins there, were the areas that we were managing, guys on the field. Okay, it's just a matter of prioritising and scoping the work to get the best data back in as quickly as possible. So the next part of that is then when all the data does come back in. So what you're looking at here is a damage assessment application that we developed and put in the hands of the technical guys to do the assessment to work out where do we go, what sort of impact to the network has been. So if we zoom in a little bit here, what you can see is all the orange pins were we'll hold off a little bit. All the orange pins were where the guys out in the field had walked the line and taken photos using server 123. All the other pins that are on the map there that are in the shape of a normal pin are actually the roams defects that were coming back through and doing the analysis for us. So 2 sets of data coming back into a single application for the technical guys to do the damage assessment and determine what we should be doing next. So we zoom in here on one of the defects as a good indication. The roams had dropped a pin on the map that said this pole was down. We're using 6-month-old data, overlaying with the roams imagery that was done during the event. And as Thorsten's sliding left and right here, you can see if you focus in on that pole, where we just have a label up, but there's a pole right in the middle there, you can see the pole is clearly down. Okay? So this is the sort of damage assessment. Yes, the analysis that came back said there's a pole down. Pretty clear, looking at that pole is definitely down. We need to go and get restoration out there to resolve it. The next part of this is an operational dashboard. Now, most people would have seen operational dashboards. For us, this was a fairly important part of the restoration process and the scoping process to give feedback very quickly. So part of working in real time is to understand that collecting the data and bringing it back, we're actually seeing the results. So 876 there, that was the number of defects the guys out in the field that were doing the scoping were able to bring back to the field, to the office very quickly. Okay, so you can see on the screen there's also a couple of cars. So we've got some green cars and red cars. The green cars are our current P25 network. Okay, so they're the ones that are moving. The red cars are our P25 network, the cars that are stopped. So if you're looking at that and thinking through it, we could actually see the cars drive along the network. We could see the orange pins following the car along as they're driving along to say they're finding the defects. Okay, and we've got the dashboard reporting to say which guy was actually capturing that data and bringing the data back in. It was also giving us insights in, well, that field crew was out there for half the day or a full day, no data's come back. Either their device isn't working, they're not in connectivity range, or something like that. But it gave us some insights to say, well, why aren't we getting their defects? It's important that they've gone out all day, but how come we haven't got any data? Okay, Thorsten's just sort of showing you a couple of things there, but there's lots of capability brought into that dashboard. The final application that we spun up was the recover and restore. So it's important during the event to understand that the recover and restoration progress, that's where the real heroes of the day are. That's all the field guys going out there. I mean, if you just look at a couple of these photos, you can understand that it's no minor feat to restore after a major event like that. So you can see here the helicopters flying in, all the bucket trucks are running. It's the whole line there. That was a 60 kV line down at Proserpine. So it's a major event, but we also need to visualise and do some playbacks to help them restore that. So what we have here is the light blue and the dark blue shades. That's effectively the area of the network and the days that it was off. So we can replay the event and understand on day 1 we restored these people, day 2 it was this feeder, day 3 it was this. And that's important for lessons learned and to recap and understand. On this map we've also got the capability to bring in like TMR feeds. So we're trying to restore the network. We can still see a couple of pink dots in there, but do we have any road closures? Do we have any debris? Do we have any road flooding? So all those other external data feeds that impact the recovery process, we were all visualising and presenting back on this map very quickly to make these decisions. So if we do a bit of a recap about what I was talking about now, all that stuff that was spun up, delivered for the purpose of Tropical Cyclone Debbie, but it's worth understanding that, if we go to the next slide, Thorsten, if we have a look at this, we had potential impact maps, we had zone coordination, real-time outage maps, scoping applications, damage assessments, restoration trackers, flood modelling. We integrated into other utilities. We also integrated back into our own data sets. So we were hooking into Tableau reports, we were hooking into our outage management system, we were hooking into major event dashboards. But we didn't produce one app that did everything. Okay, so when you're looking at this sort of stuff, you develop the apps or the maps that are fit for purpose. So every group had their own functional requirements. So we developed something, it was the same data sets, just presented slightly different to help them enable them to do their job. That concludes our presentation for today. I hope there's a few takeaways. Thorsten and myself, we have one of the tablets here today. where we'll be walking around. Feel free to come and talk to us. We can help you talk through any of the issues that you're having in your utilities and opportunities that you might have. Thank you very much for your time.